Today's episode, we're going to be changing valve springs with the head on. Now, a lot of people have asked for this video. It's obviously exactly the same as changing the stem seals as well, which I'll show you the stem seals inside the head once I've got the rocker cover and obviously the cams and everything out. So we're going to do it on the other engine, not this engine, because this engine's got no problems with it. So this is the engine we're going to be doing the valve springs on. It already has obviously custom cams in there and uprated springs. These are cat valve springs, but the valve springs on this car, on this head, have done a lot of miles and right over 7,000 RPM. I think they've got a little bit of valve bounce. It's obviously to do with the massive pressure build up in this big KO6 turbo we've got here, and obviously the exhaust gases just can't get out of here, so they start reversion back into the chamber. It leads to a little bit of valve bounce because the valves just cannot shut fast enough. So we've got a high rev limit on this. I think it's 7,500, which is on the limit of the hydraulic lifters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all the parts off that we need to take off. First off, I'm going to do a compression test. I'm going to show you how to do a proper compression test on these engines using Opcom to open the throttle body, so you don't have to do it with your foot, and you can just do it easily by yourself. So we're going to show you that now. Let's get to doing it. So I already have a head here all built up, fully built, all done the stem seals, everything on it. It's got new lifters, it's been skimmed. I was going to just pop this head straight on, but I thought I wanted to do it a different way just to show you lot how it's done. So you can see here it's a lovely clean head, obviously done very little mileage at all. Obviously I'd clean it up properly if I was going to put it on, but we're not going to. But I just want to show you how to do it with the head on, what tools you need. It's going to help a lot of people out. Now remember what I said about the stem seals, and if your ports are all choked up and the valves are all choked up and the stems of the valves are all choked up, can't see in there, but obviously they've been cleaned, then don't do this. Don't do the stem seals with the head on, because your ports are going to be tiny anyway and you're going to lead to issues. But if you've got no issues, you just want to change, you know, your cams or your seals or your valve springs without any sort of nastiness that's in the ports, then carry on watching this video. Right, so first off, we're going to do a compression test. Now, annoyingly, my mate's got my compression tester at the minute, so we've got this cheap one that I've just got. These are crap, basically, but they're going to give me an even number across all cylinders. So they're going to read wrong. They're probably going to read a couple of bar lower than they should. So never take any notice of the amount of PSI that these things are reading. As soon as you drop them or knock them once, they're absolutely useless. So only look for even cylinder pressures across all cylinders. Basically all we're doing now, we're going to remove the coil pack quickly so we can get to the spark plugs, and then we're going to start removing the spark plugs. So you want to, right, let's get into removing the spark plugs out of all the cylinders now. So obviously you want to make sure that the engine's turned over as freely as possible. So I'm just running iridium spark plugs in these at the minute. A lot of people are scared of iridium for dropping the tips, but it's mainly down to the mat by the engine itself that the tips drop, overheating, etc. Nothing to do with the actual plug itself. Plugs are absolutely perfect. So you can see that's got a nice burn on there straight out the cylinder. So if you're doing this compression test on one of these cars, Opel, Vauxhall, Chevrolet, Holden, they're all the same. Just go into your Opcom, open up obviously what car you've got. So obviously Astra G, engine, Z20, let that open up, check interface. Right, now, so what you do now is you go to output tests, and then you can see here you've got a list of output tests. You can check the coil, loads and loads of stuff you can check. It next, and you can see here compression test. So go to compression test, and what you can do now is activate the throttle body to stay open. So if I click the throttle body, you see there, throttle position now is fully open. So now the throttle body is completely open, we can do a compression test. So obviously if you're doing this on a car with a manual throttle pedal and a cabled throttle body, you literally just hold down the throttle cable. You've got to have the throttle body completely open so it lets the maximum amount of air into the cylinder so you get an accurate reading. I've just took the cover off this gauge so it makes it a little bit clearer to use. Now just thread it in like you would with a spark plug, but make sure it's nice and tight in there. The proper ones you can actually do up and then just clip them in with an air line. These are obviously the cheap ones. We're just looking for an even pressure across all the cylinders, so you know, between 10, 11 bar, whatever they are. So now that throttle body's so you can see there we're about dead on 10 bar. Obviously these ain't going to read exactly accurate, so Just going to let the pressure out of that. You've got a little button on the side that lets the pressure out. Make sure you do that before you change it onto the next cylinder. So taking it out of number 1, put it into number 2. And just keep doing that across all 4 cylinders, making sure the throttle body stays open. So next thing we've got to do is start stripping down obviously the top of the engine, ready to get all these cams out. So you can see obviously the cams are in there, got to get the covers off, going to get this cam cover off, going to take this direct air feed off and just block it off at the top of the turbo so nothing can drop down it. All the pipe work for the breather system, etc. Breather on the front. So we're going to get to stripping this down now. Obviously jack the car up as well, get the auxiliary belt off because obviously you're going to have to time up the engine again. So we're going to get all the covers off the left hand side of the engine off. Right, so we've just done a few bits stripped off. You can see the cam covers off, covers all off the cam belt side as well, auxiliary belts off, intake, the whole lot you just see. Basically we're just about to get the camshafts out, so I've got to loosen off this tensioner. There's a tensioner that's down, let's have a look, there it is, and this it's got a 13mm nut on it. The uprated ones have like a Torx screw on them and they always round off, so I always go for the 13mm bolt because it doesn't round off. If you do it up to the proper torque you have no problems with it. So let's get this cam belt loosened off and then it's just a case of getting these cams out. So you want to work your way from the outside in, as I always say, so you don't snap the camshaft. So outer ones inwards, and then your camshaft's going to come out proper. So let's get these out. You can't be putting the compressor into the spark plug hole yet, because obviously the valves are left open and it's just going to literally leak out the gas. So get your bottom pulley to top dead center. So number 1 piston, you can see there is at top dead center, and I'll show you why in a minute. Right, so time to crack off this tensioner. Just 13mm. Once that's cracked off like that, spin it with your fingers, turn the tensioner so you've got the slack, and you're about to pull off this side of the belt first. It'll come off nicely, nice and easy. Obviously if you've done this before you know what you're doing. So now the belt's off, just leave that slack, you don't need to touch that for now. We'll do that when we're timing the engine up. It's time to get these cams out. Now these are only torqued up to 8 Newton meters, so I just use my torque gun on a light setting. So I just set it to number 1, so it's nice. And as I say, work from the outside inwards, so just blast them off. Right, that's all the cams undone, so now just take off the caps one by one. You can keep them in order if you want, but they're all numbered up as I've showed you in the past. It's easy enough. Right, so just give your little camshaft a wiggle. It will just pop out like so. Right, so next thing to do, we're getting these lifters out. Now what you're going to want to do is number these lifters, especially if you've got a set of cams and you put brand new lifters in with them. So you want to wipe off the old oil as much as you can get off, and then get yourself like a Sharpie, so like a permanent marker pen, and number up all the lifters in order. Now the left hand side of the engine, where the camshafts are, where the cam pulleys are, sorry, and the cam belt is always number 1. So on any engine where the cam pulleys are is number 1, and what I go by is number 1 inlet is number 1. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm surprised I can count to that far. So that's what you do, number all these up. So let's get wiping this oil off and get the numbers on them. So now all the lifters are all numbered up, you can see there, 1 to 16. It's time to get these out. So the best tool that I've used to get them out is just a large magnetic extension. You can see here, just slide straight out instead of trying to use a set of pliers or whatever. You end up damaging them, damaging the head. And because they're all labelled up now, you can just pop them into a bag, not have to worry about them getting mixed up. Right, onto the tool we're going to be using now. It's just a universal draper tool. You can see it's a spring compressor. So that's the part number for it. You see there if you want to go out and get it. And I'll show you what it entails. So obviously you're going to need a compressor for this tool. So this is the tool itself. Got everything you need to change them. You can see here, this is the adapter that goes into the spark plug holes for the compressor. Obviously that just pushes in there. And then this setup is how I'll show you how it sets up onto the head. So obviously this bolts onto the head along here, and then this is what's used to compress the springs. You'll see it all will come clear when it's on the car. So first off, got to get this compressor line. So this is the line that goes to the compressor itself, and this is what's going to pressurize the cylinder. Now obviously what's going to happen inside the cylinder, it's going to fill up with air, and it's going to push the valves up and allow you to compress them and get the collets out, or the retainers, or the keepers, whatever you want to call them. They're called different things in different countries. So I'm going to go with this shorter, stiffer version. Obviously I've just popped my own fitting in the end here. It does come with fittings, but I like to use my own ones because they're a lot better. You can see this one's for like a longer reach style one. It's just I don't find it as good. So it's only for engines that you can't get down to the spark plug holes or in an awkward place. So just going to bolt this one to the head. Going to put it in nice and tight, and I just use this nut here to tighten it up into the cylinder so we get a nice load of pressure inside the cylinder so that valve don't drop. So just screw this into the spark plug holes like you would with the spark plugs when that's semi-tight, or spanner, and just tighten it up so that that rubber seal is nice and tight in the cylinder, so we're not going to leak any air out of there, because you don't want any air leaking out. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to attach these brackets to the head. You can see here they literally bolt into where the cam caps were. You can see I've just literally bolted them in loosely there. You can slide them backwards and forwards, so you can move them about. You're going to have to move them about. There's no set position for them. You're going to have to move them about for the different valves, and then you've got to slide the bar through. So you can see all the different holes in here for the bar. So the bar just literally goes in the side here. Not in that particular spot. You might have to have it on that one. Depends what head you've got. So you just keep moving it around. Then use this bar itself, and this bar obviously it's got another two positions, got positions all over here. So as you say, it is universal. I find that's a nice position to have it in. So you can see it sits down in the valve like that, and then that's how you lever on it. I'm not going to do it yet because there's no air in it. Now remember what I said about the piston. Make sure when you're starting from number one piston is at top dead center. If it ain't, and you don't, and this loses compression and the air bypasses that valve, and the valve drops down into the cylinder, you're going to have to take this head off, because you're not going to get that valve back out. So make sure that every cylinder that the valves you're going to be removing are on has the piston at the top of its stroke, so that the valve cannot drop down into the cylinder, because as I say, you're going to be taking the head off and doing the head gasket anyway, so it's a waste of time. So always just keep turning it over. So obviously that one's at its peak stroke, then that one's at its peak stroke, then that one's at its peak stroke, and that one's at its peak stroke. And that way, if you did have an accident and the compression was lost inside the cylinder and the valve did drop down, you're not going to drop it all the way into the cylinder, and you can actually pull it back out. It's really important. So in this kit, it does actually have a magnetic tool for the valve keepers, but I just changed this for like a more stronger version, so it's got a much more magnetic strength, and then I can get right in there and get rid of the keepers, because you don't want to be dropping any of them keepers in the head. So let's start to getting this first valve spring out. Right, so everything's set in position now. You can see all the tools are all set up, the cylinders all compressed, the pistons to top dead center, we're ready to go. So now it's just about compressing that spring, getting the valve keepers out, changing the spring over. Let's get on it. So there you go, that's the valve keepers out. The valve's in place nicely, pressure released off the spring. Then you just get your same magnetic tool that you used to get the hydraulic lifters out. That takes the retainer out, and then that can just remove the spring. And that's one done. So now it's about swapping it over. You can see down there, that's the stem seal. So you can see right there is the stem seal on the guide. So literally all you would have to do is prise that stem seal off, pop your new one on, tap it in with like an 11mm deep socket so it goes over the top of the valve, and then you've got a new stem seal on there. So obviously reassembly is exactly the same as disassembly. Put your spring in. Obviously if you're changing your stem seal, change that. You've got your retainer. If you're putting titanium retainers on there, change that as well. and then you've got your keepers. Now these are 3-groove keepers as opposed to the 1-groove keepers that are on race cars. Now a tiny little trick here, get yourself a magnetic flathead screwdriver. You can see it's got a magnetic tip on it. That allows you to put them in wherever you want to put them in, but also get yourself a bit of Vaseline. You can see here, there's the keeper. Just going to get a little bit of Vaseline, rub it into the grooves. It's going to act as like an adhesive to stick it to the valve stem itself. Right, so this is what we're going to be fitting to the car today. So we've got these valve stem retainer and platforms. Obviously these are for the exhaust side mainly, but we've got it for the inlet as well. Now they're a little bit thicker than the stock ones, got nice oil passages, and obviously they stop the stem seals from popping off. I've never had a problem with them popping off without these anyway, but you might as well put them in just so they can act as platforms as well, mainly on the exhaust side, as I say, just to give that spring pressure a little bit more spring rate, just so that obviously the valves close exactly when we want them to. These are the Piper valve springs that we've got. Now you can tell here they're absolutely no different to a stock spring. So stock spring looks wise is just got some paint on the side of it. If you look at the Piper springs, they're exactly the same to look at. So it's very difficult to tell if you have got them in the car. Obviously some aftermarket valve springs do come painted as well, and these haven't got no markings on them at all. So you can see these are a lot more tensile strength, these Piper ones, than the stock springs. These stock springs you can actually compress with your hand, so you can tell they're quite soft, and then when you try to compress the Piper ones, they're very, very strong, very, very stiff. And although they don't look any different, they're made from a higher tensile steel, just equivalent to what you'd have on a spring on your car, shock and spring setup. Don't look any different, but they are. So these are going to really, really help with the valve train at high RPM, because I like to make power at 7,500 RPM with these turbos. They can hold the boost right up there. And if you ain't got the valve springs and the platforms, there's no point having that turbo setup on, because you're going to still be able to rev to around 7,000 RPM, and that's it. And then you're going to get valve bounce. So you've got another risk of obviously dropping a valve as well and destroying your forged engine if you've got one. So it's a very, very good upgrade. And obviously to complement them, obviously we're going to be taking off the stem seals, and these are the genuine stem seals, the only ones I use for these cars, and that's why they don't pop off. I don't use L-ring. You've seen them in the past, nasty stem seals. So these are SKF ones, genuine GM ones. There's the part number for them, 904100741 if you need them. So we're going to swap them out as well at the same time, because you can't change the retainers without swapping out the actual stem seals themselves. So let's get to getting that job done. So the tool here that I use for removing the stem cells themselves is obviously this tool here. This is actually made for the stem seal removal. You can see here it's got like a plier action, some grooves in the end of it. I do a little modification on it just to make it a little bit tighter, because the stem seals on these are quite tight. So go out and get yourself one of these. Don't use a set of pliers, because you'll just destroy them. I've seen people using these. So obviously while this is all apart, we're going to be changing the stem seals. Even though the stem seals are absolutely perfect on this car, we might as well change them over while everything's apart. It's a no-brainer. And the purpose of this video is obviously to show you how to change the valve springs and the stem seals at the same time. So this is a stem seal removal tool. And you see it just clamps, and try and get an angle for you. It clamps around the stem seal, obviously. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this with one-handed and videoing at the same time, but give it a try. So give it a wiggle off the guide, and there you go, pops off. So it is off. You see how easy that was? They wasn't on there solid. And that's exactly how they should be. They shouldn't be smashed on there, and they get misshaped if they do that. And they also shouldn't be burnt. So that's one out. We've got 15 more to go. See how easy that was to get the stem seal out. So we get to replacing them. So this is a stock valve seat, the stock ones that come with the car, just to show you the difference between the platforms that we've got going on there and the stock ones. So you can see the platforms are actually quite a bit thicker, probably double the thickness, and that will aid the spring pressure as well of the valve spring, and make sure them exhaust valves shut properly at high RPM. You can see the difference, how much thinner they are in comparison to how thick the platforms are. So that should give you a good idea of why we changed these over. Now it's just an added bonus that that's got a retainer in it, the stem seal retainer. You can see there's a lip in there. It's not necessarily something I would always do. The retainer part of it is just a bonus. The platform part of it is the main part that I use it for. But you can see the valve spring seat on the right hand side, and the stock valve guide in there as well. You can see the valve up and down, so make sure that doesn't obviously drop down. You can see how the compressed air is keeping it up. and you just literally use a magnetic tool. Don't put them platforms over the top of the existing ones, because you're going to end up with a lot of problems. So that's out there now. We're going to get ready to clean that up and then just put in the new valve seat retainers. So one thing you do need to know is with these aftermarket retainer platform things, you can see that you have to actually put on the stem seal first and not afterwards. So normally you'd put your seat down there and then put your stem seal over the top of that, where it's the other way around on these. Retainers over the top of the stem seals, you can see how they fit absolutely perfect, and the reason that you obviously have to put the stem seal on first, so don't get confused, and they fit on there nicely. So you just I'll give you a close-up view of me fitting a stem seal on one of these on another one, but I'm going to time lapse it for now. So a little bit of grease, as I said, just to get your valve keeper stuck on with a magnet. You can see there, easy enough to do. Just leave that on the side. Get your tool, hole is aligned, your tool's aligned, and see how nicely it just goes down. You get your keeper. So that's one side in. Another bit of grease. Just use Vaseline for this. It's absolutely perfect. It's what I prime the oil pumps up on the EJ20 engines, because otherwise they won't suck any oil pressure, and you know that's never a good thing. There we go. So the keepers are on, and it's easy as that. So I've got another 15 to do. Right guys, so a change of plan, a big change of plan actually. So last night when I was pressure testing the cylinders, all the cylinders were good. There was a slight leak down on cylinder 3, but cylinder 2 had a major leak down. It had a major leak down on the inlet valves, and it was so much so, it actually popped the cap off the turbo where it had pressurised the boost system. And I'm very happy with that. I know you might not think so, but I am, because I've been chasing the cylinder 2 misfire for a long time. You've probably seen that on the diagnostics. I thought it was plugs, coil path. I've changed everything basically, and it looks like we've got a slight issue with the inlet valves, and so we're going to pull this head off. Wasn't expecting that to do that today, but you know I normally do it that way anyway, so it's not really a problem for me. So we're just going to get the turbo and the inlet off, start pulling this lot off, get this head built up. I've got another head, spare one on the side, ready to go. New springs in it, retainers, stem seals, valves have been lapped in, and the head's been decked. So got a new head gasket for that as well, ready to go. Perfect, having all these spares laying about that I have, different engines and stuff. So We're going to be running on the car, so I've been saving this head for a special occasion because it is a totally original uncracked head. So you can see in here on all 4 cylinders, absolutely uncracked. So you can see it's been skimmed as well, so it's ready to go. I've just got to change over a few bits onto the valve train, obviously, to make it perfect. It's going to give it a clean up, and then we'll be ready to bolt this back on. But obviously, it ain't going to go back on like this, so you're going to join me in obviously stripping this down, cleaning it up a little bit, and then getting this ready to go on. So luckily I've got this head ready to go. I've been saving it, as I say. This one's going to be repaired. Obviously just get the valves cut in again, and then skim it, and then this one will be ready to go as well. So I'm just basically just swapping over heads. It's a good head, that's a good head. I've got a couple of else good heads, but this one's obviously perfect for the position I'm in at the minute. So let's get this one stripped down, built back up, cleaned up, and bolt this back on the car. So currently what I'm doing is I'm just removing all the valves out of the head, and I'm just cleaning them all up so they've got some carbon deposits on them, and I'm going to give them a very quick lap in with just some fine paste because they were cut in by machine, so it's absolutely no problem with that. Obviously I'm doing one at a time so I don't mix them up. I can't number them at the minute because they've got carbon on the back of them. So just going to do that on I'm just doing it on a brass wire wheel on a bench grinder. Just doesn't damage the valve at all. So you can see some carbon and that build up, and it's just not going to seat properly. So that's what I'm up to at the minute, and then I'm going to get the valve springs back in. So next we've got to get to building this head up. So I've just took the springs out of it, the stock springs. I've just put in brand new stem seals the whole way along, obviously genuine GM ones like you see. All the valves are in and everything, all cleaned up at the back. So we're just going to obviously use the stem seal retainers instead of the standard seats like we was going to in the other head. Just exactly the same setup, and then obviously the Piper valve springs instead of the stock springs. So these are stock springs I've just pulled out of it, and then we're going to put the Piper valve springs in there. Give us a much higher rev limit so we can rev this car out to 7,500 RPM. And now we've got perfectly sealing valves because all these have been cut in by machine very recently. We're going to have a nice good compression inside the engine with a nice new head gasket. Freshen it all up, it's like a godsend anyway. I just wanted to show you how to do it with the head on, but I prefer to take the head off anyway, as you know. So let's get to rebuilding this head. So there we go, as you just see, the spring platforms and retainers are in there, keeping them stem seals in place at high revs. I never have them pop off anyway, but you know, it's added protection, you can't only help. And it's a little bit thicker, as you say, to aid a bit more spring pressure on these Piper springs, so we can get a nice rev limit on the car. So I'm going to obviously put these valve springs back in. That's going to take a little while to do, so I'm not going to video that. I'll just video it once it's done. There we go, all 16 valve springs, retainers, everything's back in. Got yourself into a bit of a rhythm, which helped. Just cracked on through them. It didn't actually take that long, so they're all in there nicely now. You can see they're all greased up. You can see this Vaseline grease literally just melts away in the oil, and then you obviously do your oil change as well. Whenever you open the engine up, always do an oil change, you know, a couple of 100 miles into it, just to get rid of anything that might have got into the engine, until it's all sealed up properly. So going to just give this head a quick wipe over and a clean, maybe, you know, wire brush a few little bits, and then we're going to get this on with a brand new gasket. So just one of the last few things that I'm changing over on the head, I'm sure you know by now, but on the VXR, the Z20 LEH engine, this water cooling for the throttle body is blanked off, and you can see here on the Z20 LET it's not. You can just blank these off by putting in a 1/8 MPT thread into there, or welding it up, whatever you want to do. But on the VXR they're actually, you know, blank, they're not threaded at all. So I'm just swapping that over, it just makes it a little bit easier. So putting a new gasket on that, bolt that on up to here. Make sure that seals properly because it's a right nightmare to get at the back of the head. Right, so it's time to fit the head gasket now. Just going to give it a quick wipe over with some brake cleaner. Make sure the surfaces have got no grease on them, so that Viton coating on the head gasket can seal properly. Make sure there's nothing inside the bores that's going to score up the bores. Blow it out with some air, which I've already done. I'll just clean up the bores of any water. So you can see here, the head gasket is ready to go on. So we're just using the OEM gasket for this one. No need to go anything more. They're very, very good gaskets, multi-layer steel, as you can see. So now the head's ready to be placed on there. Get some head bolts in. Now I was going to go ARP studs, but I couldn't get any in time. I put a post out on my Instagram, but I just couldn't get any for today. So we're going to go with stock head bolts, and I'll get some for upgrading next time. to get this head on now. So just make sure you get this head on to the dowels nicely. Rock it backwards and forwards like I showed you in the past. Obviously you've got to pull this water pipe off from the back here out the way. And then the head will literally just pop in and your fillet drop into place when it's in the right. And there you go. So rock that backwards and forwards, make sure that moves backwards and forwards, fine. So these head bolts are already lubricated a little bit, but I'm just going to give it a little bit around the washer and down the thread, not too much. Don't use oil as well because it can end up hydrolocking the actual studs itself. So this is just to allow equal torque along all cylinders. So the first torque setting is just 25 Newton meters, and just to show you how small 25 Newton meters is, you literally can do it with this little tiny torque wrench here. So I'm just going to do them out. Right, so now we've just done the initial torque setting to set the head gasket. You can see here what I've done is I went round and I've just marked up the head bolts, and it's for the next stage of torquing. So we're going to be doing 90, 90, 90 and then a 15 degrees. So you can use anything you want, Tipex, whatever. I just use a little bit of marker pen, and that's the way you know that you haven't missed out a bolt, because if you're just using a torque angle gauge and you don't mark these up, you can end up missing out a bolt, and that's not the right way. I like to have ARP head studs because you just literally just torque them up. So as you just see, cam belts on, cam covers on, everything's timed up. Now if you haven't got one of these cam pulley tools, you should definitely go out and get one. They make life so much easier. Now make sure obviously they slide in nicely once you've lined up all the marks, so they slide in nicely. Obviously get an aluminium one as well if you've got aluminium pulleys, otherwise you're going to damage the pulleys if you use a steel one. You can see all the marks are absolutely perfectly timed up. On the intake pulley you use the shorter mark, and this is the one to actually time the cam gears. I'm going to mess around with the cam timing a little bit on this as well. On the cam spec I'm just like mess around with it, maximum power, different torques throughout the rev range. You can see exhaust cams just on stock timing marks at the minute. So yeah, everything's timed up, the belts covers back on as well, so just a case of getting this back together, start bolting things back on. So I'm going to start with the inlet side of things, then work way to the exhaust side. So I'm just going to time lapse that because you don't need to see it, and we get this back together and running nicely. It had brand new manifold studs in it, you can see here, that I've literally just recently put in, so I'm just going to remove them and put them in the new head. Just a little trick for you people that don't know how to do this, just so you don't damage up your studs, your new studs, when you're putting them in. Just literally lock them together with two 13mm or whatever size thread nut it is. You can see here, and I'll just lock it up with an impact, so it's a lot easier than doing it with two spanners, and then they just crack off really easy, and I'll show you what I mean. So a fresh new gasket to go with the EDS manifold. Now I find that these GM gaskets are the best sealing for these. Proper genuine GM ones. If you can't get hold of the GM ones, then get Victor Ryan's ones. That's the part number for the genuine GM ones if you want to go and get some from Vauxhall. Right, so it's nearly all back together, as you can see here. Just doing the boost pressure test. Now obviously once you've taken off any sort of hosing or done major work like this, always pressurise your intake system. So I always just give it a quick squirt of pressure, listen around for any leaks, and if you pull off the vacuum you can hear there boost pressure leaking out. So we've got no leaks from the whole system, and obviously we're going from the right on the intake of the turbo all the way back to the fuel pressure regulator vacuum. So we know there's absolutely no boost leaks, and you should always do this. Try again. As you can hear there, air leaking out of there. So absolutely perfect, got no boost leaks anywhere. Just topping up the water system now and we get this thing started. Right guys, we are done. The car is done. I've just took it out for some testing. Obviously I won't be able to do much testing tonight because it's absolutely soaking wet out, so you have to wait for them videos. Gone to the Shell, good old Shell V-Power, obviously to fill up with some fuel. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of how to change your valve springs. You see how easy it was just to whip the head off. That's why I normally just do it. A lot more simpler, a lot less tools to do it. It's one of the reasons that I get a lot of messages saying, why'd you do it with the head off? And this is the reason. So you see how easy it was to change it? I'll give the car a quick start up so you can hear it running. Runs so much better now, pulls right to the limiter. I'll obviously get some testing videos and include them in the next videos. I hope you enjoyed this one. Going to get out, fill up with some Shell V-Power, go out for a little drive. Obviously going to get no traction in this weather. The weather's really bad lately, windy, rainy all the time, but still have some fun. So engine's running perfectly, you can hear it running, absolutely mint. I changed the belt configuration on the auxiliary water pump as well. Changed it tied directly to the alternator rather than off the alternator tensioner, because them tensioners that were supplied in the delete kits, they just make a weird squeaking noise all the time. I might enter a few clips into this video so you might see that. Obviously this is the end of the video, so I won't know yet when I'm editing it, and you'll hear it squeaking away. Really got on my nerves, so just changed it to a direct belt like that with a bracket that I made up like the old school cars used to run. Runs perfectly, no squeaking there. Right, so something that's been bugging me for a little while here. If you can see here, we've got a 3-piece alternator aircon delete set up. So you can see obviously we've got the lightened pulley, which is down there, the R&D one, and obviously got the lightened tensioner pulley, which is down there, which you can just about see. Now when it's cold, this car has a bit of a squeak coming from this alternator belt, and the alternator belt's got nice loads of tension on it. So the only thing that I can think of is the actual tensioner itself is becoming weak. Now when I pull on it, it does actually move. So if we zoom it in there quickly, so you can see the tensioner moves. Now they are supposed to move a little bit, but just by pulling on it like that and it moving that man, I've got a feeling the spring's a little bit weak in it. Right, so normally what I'll do is I'll just run the alternator belt straight to the alternator and delete the tensioner totally. So you can see there we've got another lightweight pulley down there, and then the belt just literally goes straight to the alternator, and then all I do is make up a bracket that's like adjustable, as you can see here, and then I just tension the belt out like the old school cars did, and then you get a nice tension on the belt. I use an 865 belt with that one.